Welcome back to the shooting channel, and on this episode we're going to go in and we're going to dive into the differences between modern cyber-sides and old English cyber-sides. And this has come from two or three people have commented below. I've always done differences between over and unders, and they've asked me to do a review on what the differences are between a modern cyber-side and an old cyber-side. So I've got two ultra-modern cyber-sides. I've got a Yieldit cyber-side and I've got a FabArm cyber-side. I've got an English Webley Scott and I've got an English Lang, and then I've got the one in the middle, which is what I believe is the household today's brand of what is selling in today's cyber-side market. And I'm not going to tell you what that is until I've gone through the rest of them. So, the biggest thing with the English guns. Now, you've got to bear in mind is most of these English guns were built, some of them hundreds of years ago, and they were built, hand-built, and you're buying the hand-crafted English style cyber-side. This particular one is a single trigger. Single triggers used to be more expensive because they used to take longer to make and they used to be slightly more complicated. Now, this particular one has got a Prince of Wales pistol grip and it's got a Prince of Wales stock on there. Now, that's quite rare in a cyber-side. A lot of cyber-sides you will see will have straight hand stock. The biggest thing that I can think, there's two biggest things that I will think what used to happen with an English cyber-side and what has slightly changed with the modern cyber-sides is the English cyber-sides, the drop on the comb was a lot lower. Now, I believe is that if you look hundreds of years ago, probably people were slightly shorter, sort of bigger necks, that sort of thing. And that's what I believe. I mean, why do you think they were low in the comb? So if I mount this particular gun into the camera, see my eye is behind the rib. So that is the biggest thing. The other thing that I would say is English guns tend to be lighter because they were built mainly for game shooting and they were built for walking around the fields, rough shooting. So a lot of people in those days didn't want to carry a big heavy gun around. And some of the English guns, a lot of the English guns tend to have a slightly shorter barrel. So then the in thing was kind of 28 inch, 26 inch, and you had the Churchill 25, which will come in. If you look, I did do a review way back on the Churchill 25. But so the average sort of length on the cyber-side, English cyber-side was 28. You didn't really get 30 inch barrel cyber-sides. If you do get a 30 inch barrel cyber-side, English cyber-side, it's quite rare. So look out for it. But it used to have a little bit more, the English guns also used to have a little bit more attention to detail. So they used to have drop points there. They used to have, I mean, this particular one hasn't got engraving on it, but even down to all the screw heads were absolutely really fine detail. The screw heads were slightly engraved. So they made them look nicer and they were all handmade. And there used to be hundreds of gun manufacturers in this country. It used to be a little bit like Italy or Turkey is today. And unfortunately, our traditional history of gun making seems to have died out a little bit. And yes, you've still got the Purdys and the Hollands and the Rigbys, but a lot of them are now owned by either big investment companies or other gun brands. But that is really what I would say is kind of ruined a little bit. And this is why at the moment the English guns are not fetching a lot of money. And honest opinion, I think now is the time to snatch up English guns, because I actually think in 20, 30 years time, 40 years time, I think they're going to come back. A bit like the old classic cars came back in the car trade. And now a lot of people are going out to buy old classic cars because they want to have a little bit of history. So if you do get the chance to buy yourself an English gun, go out and buy one, because generally you can pick an English gun up now for not a lot of money. Go out and buy one, Make sure you look after it and just keep it in the cabinet for history to come back to. I'm also going to bring out Webley Scott. And again, this is another Webley Scott. Yes, they were a very traditional English gun. This particular one is a double trigger. Now they have been bought out by Highland Outdoors own them, and they've taken the English name and they've taken them to Turkey, and they get or Turkey is at the moment where they are, and they get them a sort of cheaper side-by-sides made with the Webley Scott name on. So, but the old traditional Webley Scotts were made in England, and they were really nice. They were hand built. They were in those days they were slightly cheaper than the Langs and the Purdy's, but they were still an affordable English gun. But they were still built by hand. Generally, again, like I said, this one's got a straight hand stock. Again, if you look at the attention to detail, the screw heads, you've got a little bit more engraving on there. They were still nice. This particular one is 28 inch. But if you look at them, they still took the same stock dimensions and they had that traditional stock dimension on them. I'm going to be honest, the old Webley Scotts were a little bit heavier. So you've got the Lang, which was lighter. The Webley Scott is a fraction heavier as well. But again, the stock dimensions were still the same. So they kind of took that very traditional English stock dimensions. So a lot of people do have a comb razor. I'm going to be honest, I can actually teach somebody to shoot an English gun. You just don't put your head down on the gun so much. But I wouldn't get yourself a nice English gun and then change it. I'd keep it traditional, keep it the same, keep it what it was like when it was built, because that is going to be worth, I feel, the value of them is going to go up massively, because people want English stuff. People want our heritage. People overseas want our heritage. And I think the buy-in in England, I think we will want our heritage back eventually. I know a lot of people in the world at the moment is going away from the old traditional English heritage, and I don't want to get involved in politics on this, but I think our government is kind of trying to destroy that English heritage that we've got within the car world, within the gun world. But I think it will come back, and I honestly feel like old classic English cars have come back and people want them. I think old classic English guns will come back. So keep an eye. Comment below. Do you agree with this? I think the old English gun has still got a place in today's market. And then I'm going to miss the middle one out, and then I'm going to go to the Yieldits. Now, the Yieldits generally is the cheapest of the ultra modern side-by-side. Now, take note. Single trigger, so they've taken the best bits of the English gun. Single trigger, pistol grip, fairly big pistol grip there. This particular gun is a 28 inch. They've still kept traditional, but you can get these in a 30 inch. Recoil pad. So again, that was something that the English guns did. They kicked and they recoiled a little bit more. But the ultra modern ones tend to have recoil pads on there, but it's still kept fairly traditional with the little bit of engraving, the wood to metal finish. Yes, they are aluminium built, and yes, they are built down to a price. These are generally about £1,000 or just under £1,000. Take note, the other thing, if I mount this gun into the camera, they have increased the comb height dramatically. Stock length still 14 3/4, but the comb is a lot higher. So they've kind of learnt from the low comb that people didn't particularly like these days, and they've put a high comb on it. So that's a tick in the box for sort of modern side-by-sides. And then I'm going to move to a modern side-by-side, but more of an expensive modern side-by-side. And this is the Fab Arm. And again, straight hand stock, single trigger, side plate, engraving. Now again, I'm going to be honest, these two, the Yieldits and this one, is probably not hand engraved. They're probably not hand built. Majority of what's made on these are made on a machine. but they still try to keep the traditional English look. And that, I feel, again, what I was saying about people want that English style, that's this. But again, they've learned this particular one, and the Yieldits has put multi-choke in it. The Yieldits has got multi-choke. It's heavier, and the comb is slightly higher. So, but the first thing I felt was the comb higher on both of these modern guns, and it was heavier. So they've taken the traditional look of it, but they've made it slightly modern. So again, that's a tick in the box for the modern, but they're still trying to keep the very traditional English look. And then, I'm going to be honest, this brand that I've left out is probably, I would say, the only side-by-side brand that sells the second-hand guns. Everyone wants them. And this is the AYA. Now, the AYA, again, it is they were the first to kind of copy that English style and go into their Spanish, get it made with the AYA name on. And I'm going to be honest, they have done probably the best job out there. They've been making guns for years, and AYA, I know a lot of you will probably disagree with this, and you'll think, oh, Hollands, our Purdy's, all this, but AYA is the most affordable side-by-side gun left on the market. And I'm going to be honest, you can literally destroy them, you can literally batter them, but you just cannot destroy them. They are a very, very good quality side-by-side. But they've nicked, still kept the traditional English look. So again, they've got their drop points. This particular one is double trigger. You can get them in single trigger. Side lock, they've got bluing, they've got all the engraving on there. Again, AYAs are still built by hand. They've got the engraving there. Wood to metal finish is absolutely superb. They've even got hand detachable locks, which makes it sound better. And they're very high in the comb. So they've kept the very traditional English look, but they've put the modern twist onto it. So, and this is why I left AYA out, is because obviously you've got the ultra modern ones and you've got the very English style ones. And the AYAs, I can remember in my lifetime, I was very young at the time, but the AYA basically were the first ones to kind of conquer the English side-by-side market. And that is why I left this. And they're still doing it. I mean, I'm going to be honest, there is still a lot of people asking for side-by-side AYAs, because you can pick a second-hand number 2 up for 1,500 to 2 grand. You can even pick nice round-bodied ones up for 3 grand. You try getting a handmade Holland or Purdy for that. You can't get it. And new ones are 10 or 12 grand. My biggest thing is, why aren't new AYAs promoted more in the UK? Because I think there is a market there for it. And that is my differences between side-by-sides. Have you ever thought about shooting a side-by-side, or treating yourself to a side-by-side, or learning to shoot with a side-by-side? I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think about side-by-side shooting. And would you go for ultra English, very traditional English? Would you go for something very modern, or would you go for the AYA, which ticks every box? It's a slightly modern gun, but with all the twists of an English gun. What would you go for? Comment below. Do you think there is still a place for the traditional English side-by-side? I really feel this is something that we need to keep in our heritage, and need to keep this going like classic cars. The English traditional side-by-side. I hope you've enjoyed this programme. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us to give you content like this. And comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this debate that we're having with side-by-sides. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.